Hello all. So I'm bringing you this video around the energy of this really beautiful big full moon in Scorpio. And I am feeling a lot. I'm feeling the depths of this moon. I feel like a little bit like I'm being raked over the coals this last week. But also at the same time, feeling the extremes of beauty of life. Of the seeds being planted and the ones that are now growing and bursting into life. So it's a strange time. It feels quite polarized, this energy. It feels very of the extremes. And in some ways, I feel like that's where we're asked to be at the moment, is all of ourselves, but perhaps placing ourselves at the end of the spectrum of ourselves so that we can understand our extremities, our extremes, where we begin and end, and then the pieces of the rest of the puzzle will perhaps fit into the middle somehow in that beautiful, inexplicable, intangible, spiritual way that seems to happen when we allow it. That seems to happen when we understand that we're not in control, and that simply by feeling the truth of ourselves, then we can find our way to the beauty of what's unfolding, and we can prevent ourselves from limiting ourselves. But it's not really an action of prevention, it's an inaction, if you like, or a surrender. So it's the knowingness that there's a part of us that always wants to limit. There's a part of us that always wants to be safer than we are. It creates boundaries, limitations, and it creates answers to questions that maybe don't feel fulfilling. It might help us to close doors when we want to open them. There are aspects of us that just want to feel as safe as possible all the time, and it's only by becoming really acutely aware of these aspects of ourselves that we can allow ourselves to be fully present and compassionate, which is the alchemy that we need to offer ourselves in order to heal. In order to feel brave enough to step beyond boundaries and to put ourselves into uncomfortable situations, in order to feel brave enough to be seen beyond the mask of what we would like other people to perceive. And for the most part, I think, a lot of people are aware of that. Even if they're not on the spiritual journey, they're probably aware to some degree that they, wear a mask, that they, need to put on a front in certain situations, that they need to have a barrier of some kind between them and other people, to a degree, whether it be an aspect of their persona becoming funnier, or becoming withdrawn, or any number of things that we do when we're in situations where we don't feel fully aligned, where we don't feel in control. And I think the invitation is for us all to not change that. So not have an intention that we see ourselves from any kind of a judgmental capacity, that we witness ourselves doing and experiencing these things with great love and compassion for the transformation which is already taking place. Because all we need in order to transform, the only alchemy that we need, is awareness and love. And so they are the two keys to transforming ourselves through any experience, situation, and embodied an embodied wound that we come to journey with. we have so many opportunities in life to journey with our wounds. And for the most part, we circumnavigate them or ignore them. We're quite skilled at doing that. Culturally, we're incredibly skilled at doing that. And we have set up our lives so that we have numerous amount of distractions, even the good things, the things that are healthy, the things that create wellness, even they can be used as distractions. Even spirituality can be used as a distraction from actually allowing ourselves to understand who we are in our fullness. And that can seem like a really big contradiction in terms, but actually there's a lot of people on the spiritual path becoming, and it's a part of the journey, so embracing that too. But there are a lot of people finding they walk down an avenue where they're almost a little bit more detached from themselves, even though it's a spiritual avenue. It's meant to be deepening in some kind of a way. But I often use the symbology of the tree, because that is really helpful in understanding life and understanding how we navigate things. And often spiritually, we have a tendency to reach for the branches of the tree and to reside in the branches, because it's starry, light-filled energy. It's, the sky, it's the upper realm, it's I guess where we typically feel that the heavens are, the way we might connect with, loved ones that have passed, or angels, or even ancestors. We can often think of them as being in that upper realm. And connecting in that way where you feel the beauty and the flow and the divinity is really profound and very healing and deeply important. However, if we do this type of spiritual journeying without allowing ourselves to anchor deeply into our roots, then if you can imagine a tree without its roots anchored, and what happens, especially when a storm comes, when the winds pick up, it's really, really difficult as humans to understand that the spiritual journey must have foundations in order for it to be deepened or expanded to the kind of depths and understanding that we wish. And so quite often people meet with their limitations, not understanding that their limitations are really parts of themselves that are just asking to be witnessed and healed. And they are asking us to anchor in more deeply to our embodied selves, to listen to our body, and to take this journey into our roots, into Mother Earth, into our home, into our rememberings, and to allow times like this, when this great moon energy is magically illuminating every cell in our body and showing us who we are, showing us what we've forgotten, showing us what is trying to be revealed, showing us our importance here. And it might be showing us our importance through our challenges, through difficulties. When I say that, I mean when we feel the intensity of a wound, we want to rise above it often. But the nature of a wound is that it needs to be witnessed in order to be fully healed. And it needs sunlight, illumination, it needs to be seen, it needs clarity, it needs understanding. And for us to do this to the fullest, we need to swim through the wound rather than skirt above it or walk around it. We need to actually allow ourselves to drop into the energy and to trust that we have the tools that we need to come out the other side. And This work of embodiment is not easy. It's not gentle often. It's deeply nourishing. It has a potency for reverence that is not really it's not really possible to explain unless you're taking these transformational journeys, because it's not something we experience as humans unless we allow ourselves to step into fullness. And stepping into fullness, really literally all that means is embracing ourselves in the fullness of what we are. So how do I feel today? How does my body feel? What am I waking with? Where in my body is tight or sore? Where in my body feels like it's needing more movement? What does my body wish to do? How is that language of my body reflected in the world around me? Because I am constantly creating a story with the energy that's coming through my body. It is magically creating a story that's reflected back to me in each moment of the day. And so, how is this story being reflected back to me? What do I feel and what am I experiencing? And it's the same story, and it belongs to us. There's that beautiful capacity to take ownership and to be accountable once we fully understand the sovereignty of our story, the sovereignty of the reason why we're unified, the reason why we have chosen to become individualized for this journey. Because we are one, that's the truth, that's the reality, and that's the place that we return to when we journey. When we journey through our wounds, and we keep revealing and revealing and revealing deeper, more connected parts of ourselves, until ultimately we reveal so much of ourselves that the threads that connect us all become really tangible, and we begin to understand in a language that goes beyond words how unified we are. But we came here to be individualized so that we could journey back to that state of unity. And so embracing the individualized state is what is required in order to fully embrace ultimately the wholeness of being one great family belonging to all. And obviously it's not that linear, one state or the other. As we walk along the path, we have deep moments of feeling, the truth and the connection of all that is, of where we've come from, of how we're returning. I've quite often ended up in situations where I've felt the power of eternal bliss. So only way I can describe it. And to embody that even for a moment is such an incredible experience. But it's a part of who we are. So it's not, I haven't drawn in something alien, it's not something that is like, we say wow because it's not an easily attainable thing for us, but it's still actually a part of us all, a part of our nature, and something that we share, and a place that we return to. We often find it easier sometimes to return to it when we're together, creating that beautiful energy, allowing those threads that we share to be really lit up by our intention, and sharing sacred space or spirituality together. But with the invitation I'm bringing today under this Scorpio moon energy, because it will stay with us for another few days, is to unburden yourself with the idea that you need to be anything. To unburden yourself with the idea that you have not achieved something yet, or that you should, or that you shouldn't. And to welcome yourself, just welcome the fullness of yourself in this moment, in each and every moment if you can. Just welcoming the fullness, no matter the difficulty, no matter the challenge. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. I'll see you again soon. Blessings and love.